My name is Nikolai Arilano. I'm an engineer on the extrasolar mission to Kepler 186f. We've named this planet New Mars for its similarity to the planet that we've known from the childhood. We've been on this planet for almost 3 weeks and have achieved quite a lot. But as an engineer, my personal achievement was constructing a new bot. This was a dawn of colonization and a dawn for new humanity. Welcome to What the Math. This was the end of week 3, and we realized that even though everything was going as planned and everything seemed to be functioning just perfect, we actually were running low on the synthetic parts, specifically the bioplastics. To produce the bioplastics, we actually needed plants, but we unfortunately only had maize pad that produced the bioplastic that we needed. And since we didn't really need that many vegetables, specifically mushrooms and radish, and because we were also producing meat using tissue synthesizer, we decided that we are going to remove one of these vegetable plants and produce another one of the plants that can produce starch for us. Starch was important for biosynthetical production, and it was used in bioplastic processors to produce bioplastics. Now we decided to keep the mushrooms, but the radish had to go. We removed the radish and decided to place another one of the starchy plants. We had 5 choices. It was between peas, rice, potatoes, wheat, or more maize. We've all decided that rice was probably the best choice because it was produced relatively fast, and even though you had to maintain it for a lot more time than other plants, it would also provide us with quite a lot of variety for new meals. And once we finished our rice pad, we were lucky enough to be inside the base because another storm has started. The storms have become more frequent, and we're actually damaging a lot of our turbines and solar panels. This of course meant that we needed to produce more spare parts because we had to fix all of them in order to produce more electricity. And unfortunately, one of the turbines was getting in a really poor shape. But in order for me to produce those spares, I needed more plastics. So it was all up to our new rice plant to get me the materials I needed to repair everything. When the storm was finished, we wanted to see how badly things were damaged, and unfortunately the wind turbines were not really doing so well. One of them was actually in a relatively poor shape and needed a lot of maintenance. But surprisingly, rice was growing really well in the soil from this planet. Despite the high iron and metal content, rice seemed to actually like it. The plant was growing really fast, and within a day we would probably have our first supply of rice and also more bioplastics. There was a sudden emergency. We had a meteorite impact that actually damaged one of the connectors. Luckily, we were able to shut down one of the doors right away, and the oxygen did not escape. This was one of the entrances and one of the exits that we've often used, and we had to repair everything almost instantly. We were so lucky that we actually had enough metal to repair everything on time, and it took me only a few hours to get this functioning again. But this was a sign that we needed to be very careful with the meteorite impacts on this planet. And had this meteorite hit our oxygen generator, we would have been actually in a lot of trouble. This made me realize that we needed to create a new set of oxygen generators and water extractors, because without them, if one of them is destroyed, we will actually all die. Once I repaired the airlock and the connection to this airlock, I started thinking where could we actually place these new generators for them to be a little bit safer than in the location where they are right now. But something was not right. There was something missing. I didn't really realize this right away, but one of our bots was actually gone. Upon the meteorite collision, the bot was actually programmed to run straight for the connectors and try to fix it. But what happened was that it actually got damaged to the point where it was destroyed completely. I did not realize it right away, and I was devastated. This was our construction bot, and unfortunately without it we would actually be slowed down dramatically. We would not be able to repair things without it. We would not be able to construct things a lot faster. And things like wind turbines now had to be fixed manually. I was the only person that was actually qualified for the job now, which meant that I needed to do a lot more work. But what's worse is that not only did I have to repair it manually, but I also had to make sure that not only did I have to do everything manually now, by the time that I would actually repair one of them and return to construct more spare parts, it's very likely that more things would get damaged. Without a second engineer on the base, we would actually be wasting a lot of time repairing things. But nevertheless, I had to work fast. The turbine that was the farthest from our base was in a very poor condition. I tried to walk as fast as I could so I could actually repair it. And even though I haven't done this in such a long time and relied on our bot to do all of this, I was also kind of happy that at last I could do something a little bit different. I haven't been outside in a very long time, and it was actually kind of exciting to be here, even though I was obviously wearing a spacesuit. And even though I was kind of devastated to lose the bot, I was also secretly kind of excited to do some of its work. It was quite relaxing to repair things, and it didn't require as much thinking as building semiconductors or spare parts. But nevertheless, for this base to be successful, I needed to come up with some kind of a plan to make more spare parts and to make them quicker. One of our workers, Shane Herrera, actually proposed something that we didn't really think about before. He suggested that it was actually possible for us to build a landing pad. The landing pad would of course be an invitation for more colonists to arrive to our planet. And even though we weren't sure if it was possible at the moment, it would definitely create an opportunity for us to expand the base and of course for us to invite more people to live with us. And even though our base was actually quite sufficient, we were starting to feel the lack of manpower and how it reflected on the sudden inefficiency in construction, repairs, and even other things like, for example, maintaining the gardens. Everyone was a little bit too exhausted. We had to work really hard to maintain everything by ourselves, and we actually all agreed that it was time for us to invite others. Building the landing pad was not very difficult. It was actually just a very large metallic octagon where any kind of a spacecraft could land, refuel, and then take off again. Now, we weren't sure if any other colonists would be able to join us relatively quickly, but we've decided to give it a chance anyway. We knew that other companies and other organizations sent colonists to this planet. We just didn't know if they actually made it yet. We've decided to place this structure right next to our storage area because if someone ever came to trade with us, we would be able to transport things to their spaceship almost instantly by using our storage compartment that was right here. Luckily, we had two carrier bots that could now transport all of the metal needed for the construction so that we wouldn't have to waste time doing it. And once all of the metal was in place, we would be able to construct this pad and then wait for someone to arrive. If we were lucky enough, there would be more people that would join us, or would at least come and trade something with us so we could have more spare parts. But while we were waiting, I decided to fix another one of the panels. I took another box of spare parts and headed outside. It looked like this was going to become my routine for a while now until we could figure out something else. Without a construction bot, our life would become a little bit more difficult and things would most likely slow down. And while I was fixing this turbine, I started to think how we could actually improve our situation. One of the things we could do is of course try to construct a construction bot, but unfortunately we did not know how to do it. I did not know where to get the required technology because Iker, who was actually the most familiar with the robotic technology, had no idea how it even works. So maybe this was a good idea. Maybe if we build a landing pad, we'll be able to receive some kind of a technical knowledge or possibly a schematic for how to build these somewhat complex construction bots. But although we knew that it was not most likely going to happen anytime soon, I've decided to finish the landing pad and proceeded to construct the building. It really only took me about an hour to finalize the construction, and I was ready to receive new guests from the outer space. We had no idea who's going to come visit us, but we started to broadcast the invitation to all kinds of different spaceships. We knew there were lots of them outside, especially in the orbit around the planet, and we knew that because our colony was the biggest on the planet, we would have a lot of people interested in coming for a visit. At the dawn of the new day, I proceeded to build more spare parts. This was going to become my routine from now on: spare parts, fixing. Spare parts, fixing. But you know what? I didn't complain about it. It was actually kind of enjoyable. And even though ultimately I would actually want to build another robot sometime in the future, for now I had to settle for this somewhat simple routine. But luckily we're now producing just enough metal and also just enough bioplastics for us to construct more spare parts. And what was that sound? We had our first guest. Who was that? We were all very excited. We needed to go and meet them. This was a trade ship that possibly had something interesting for us to trade with them. He was a freelancer that actually worked for the same organization that sent us here and had a lot of things for us to possibly exchange with him. And the question was, of course, if he wanted anything from us. Of everything Mr. Care had on board, we were interested in 3 things. One of them was another carrier bot, and he also had a driller bot. We weren't sure how exactly this is going to help us, but I think this would actually possibly make mining a lot more efficient. And lastly, he had an interesting schematic for a genetically modified tomato that would actually grow faster and produce more food. But unfortunately, we didn't have much to offer. The only thing he really wanted from us was our gun. But this was our only weapon, and for all we knew, we would actually need it. And everything else that we had was not very valuable to him. Unfortunately, he only wanted our medical supplies, but we needed that as well. We've decided to actually ask him to leave. Not because we didn't want his things, but because we had nothing to offer. He didn't want to stay too long at our base and decided to depart for the next colony that was actually apparently not very far away from us. Nevertheless, we were happy to see a new face. This was the 8th person to visit our colony, and even though he was not very excited to be here, specifically because we didn't trade anything with him, we were very excited to see him. We were hoping that he would actually come back and possibly give us another offer in the future. But most importantly, we actually had to come up with something that we could trade in exchange. And it seemed like guns were actually something that they wanted to buy from us. And so I decided that once I'm able to finish constructing the spare parts we needed, I'm going to start producing more guns so that we can actually sell them to traders that decide to visit our colony. And look at that, we actually had our first visitors. Someone came in and joined us. We were so excited, and his name was Mr. Crawford, and yes, that's right, he was an engineer. This was the best news I've had all week. Actually, 3 weeks. Actually, since the departure from Earth. I now had some help. I now had someone to finally help me with everything that needed to be done on the colony. But to my surprise, Mr. Crawford was actually Miss Crawford, Miss Tamara Crawford. Tamara was inspired as a young girl to become an engineer and pursued her career, coming up on top in every single program in university. She ended up graduating on top of the list from Harvard University and was actually the first to be chosen for this mission. And although before leaving for this mission I've actually heard her name, I didn't know that she refused the mission, which is why I got the spot. And the only reason she refused the mission was because she was actually helping finish building various water processors and air purificators in sub-Saharan Africa where people actually needed help. Yes, she was a philanthropist and she was actually a humanitarian as well. She's donated all of her money before leaving Earth and has decided to actually spend the rest of her life on this planet with us. But for me, it was of course important to have someone I could talk to while building various parts and someone I could actually rely on if I ever get sick. This was great news, and this was an amazing new person in my life that I think I may actually start to fall in love with. Yes, it was love at first sight, but an amazing, strong, independent woman like her was exactly what this colony needed. And with 2 engineers working side by side, life has become so much better now. I actually had someone to talk to while repairing all of these panels, and on top of that, I now had someone I could actually plan the base with and discuss various engineering aspects of this amazing and incredible mission. This was the happiest week of my life, and I did not actually realize that things could get so much better, but you know what, I was getting really tired and it was time for us to head back because the night was coming. The next day, we've decided to create something a little bit different. We've actually realized that even though we were quite happy and even though things were going really well, there was one thing that we didn't actually have. We didn't have a place for all of us to sit down and to chat about things. So we've actually decided to construct something similar to a bar or a pub. It was not very difficult to build, and it would actually allow us to have a place to relax and to chat about things. And as we started building the bar, we had 2 more visitors to join our colony. Noreen Frankwald was actually our generalist worker and was eager to start working right away, carrying various boxes and constructing various tools for our base. And Bryony Wade was our new biologist that was actually very eager to use her knowledge in botany and her love for plants to help us create new bioplastics and to help us create a base that would be self-sufficient and would actually have enough plants for everyone to survive and to even produce oxygen. But with so many new arrivals, we also started to realize that maybe we needed to expand our sleeping quarters. For now, we decided to actually just build another pair of beds, but we knew that sooner or later we would have to start making private sleeping quarters for everyone. If this was going to be our permanent home, we couldn't rely on a dorm-like situation that we had right now. Yes, this was similar to the days of our youth when we actually all backpacked across different countries and used hostels to sleep all together, but we were now professionals, we were much older and we needed our privacy. But as we started talking about building new cabins and building more beds, we had more arrivals, we had more people wanting to join us. Apparently the word around the colonies has spread. We were taking in more colonists and they all wanted to live with us. Some colonies from other companies have failed and they had nowhere else to go, and so now we had more people. We had Santiago Bennett, another engineer to add into our company. We had Wesley Wickstorm, who decided to sign up as a regular worker, and of course we had a new medic, Harlow DeMay. All three of them were very excited to be with us, and all three of them were really excited to be part of this new colony, and this was the end of week 3. Our colony now had 13 people. We were actually growing relatively fast, and after only 3 weeks, we actually doubled in size, which of course gave us a bit of a concern. Would we actually have enough food, enough water, and enough oxygen to supply everyone on the base? Only time could tell, but for now, we decided to accept everyone who wanted to join us. And according to our calculations, we would have enough water and enough oxygen for at least 7 more people, so we will actually be fine. So it was all the matter of being able to feed everyone. But at the same time, this also gave us hope that we could now construct things and fix things a little bit faster. 3 engineers is exactly what we needed for this colony, and this is exactly what we had now. We could now construct, fix things, and produce things 3 times as fast as we used to. And we can also, of course, start building more bots. This was my dream from the beginning, and this was going to become a reality next week on this planet. So for as long as we had enough food and for as long as everyone was happy, we would actually have a very successful colony on this planet. And it just so happens that Tamara actually was really good at making semiconductors as well. This was her specialty and she knew exactly what to do. She jumped on the opportunity and I was so relieved that I no longer had to struggle with this silly machine. And within a few hours we received a signal. 3 more friends decided to join us. We had 2 biologists and one general worker. TP, Quincy, and Ebony were our 3 new colonies that joined us within a few hours of the arrival of the previous ship. Now we started talking about whether we wanted to have more people or whether we wanted to just stay as 16 for now. It was actually probably best for us to have at least 20 people so we can function as a complete and self-sufficient colony where everyone knows exactly what to do and everyone can help each other to function efficiently. We've all decided that we're going to limit our population to 20 for now, and with the arrival of the next ship, we're going to transfer a message to the other colonies in the region asking them not to send more colonies for now. If it was an emergency and they had nowhere else to go, we would accept them, but if they just wanted to join because their colony was not working out, we've asked them to wait until we can expand our own colony. And before we could actually set up enough beds for everyone, we had 2 new arrivals, another engineer and another worker. Things were really looking up for us. Everyone in the region seemed to have heard about our colony and actually wanted to transfer here. But of course, this could not be a perfect day. We had another sandstorm. Things would most likely get damaged again, and we would probably spend the rest of the day tomorrow fixing everything using the spare parts we've just constructed. But that was okay because we had 18 people now, and we were all here for only one purpose: to create a perfect colony for the humankind and to kickstart a new era of human exploration. We have decided that it was time for us to plan out our next steps. We had just enough energy, just enough water, just enough oxygen for everyone, but we needed more. We also realized that there was now something similar to television in this particular solar system because one of the colonies established a news channel and was transmitting several entertainment channels on various frequencies, and we've actually found out about it from one of our new arrivals. So we've decided to construct our first TV set in our newly constructed bar. This would hopefully create a little bit more feeling of home and would obviously create an opportunity for us to talk about something other than construction on this planet. And something happened. Luis was dead. Oh no, we had our first fatality. The rock has crushed Luis. We had no idea he was even standing there. He was trying to fix something, or what was he doing outside? No, we could not believe it. This was impossible. How could this happen? Was this really the rock, or did something else happen? We did not see. We had no idea what was going on. This was horrible news. Today things were growing great until he died. As an engineer, my goal was to protect him, to protect everyone in this base. We had to build just enough cover for everyone to be safe, but it looks like the rock actually went through the glass and hit him right in the head. We've transmitted the news to one of the colonies that was responsible for the televised transmissions across the solar system and told them what happened. Apparently, Luis was not the first fatality, but he was definitely the first friend I've lost in a really long time. He was an amazing human being, he was an incredible friend, and if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't even know how to make robots. But what's worse is that we've lost a very close friend and the most caring person I've ever met in my life. Luis was responsible for taking care of every single person on this base, and he did so without ever asking for anything in return. This hallway right here is going to be forever remembered as the last resting place of Luis. And as Songmeng Liu stood in the hallway thinking about the memory of Luis, we all decided that we could not just give up. We had to keep going and build the future right here. Luis sacrificed his life for us, and we would all do just the same for him. But we could not grieve forever. We actually had to solve our own problems first. More meteorite impacts caused wind turbines to be completely destroyed. We had to fix it fast, and we had to do it before we ran out of energy. We also realized that we were running low on food stocks yet again because we had 20 mouths to feed. So the next day would be yet again quite difficult. We had to construct lots and lots of spare parts, and we also had to start figuring out how we're going to produce more food. And although we now had so many people working together in harmony, we also had so many new problems to solve. Now, whether we'll be successful or things will go wrong again, we'll find out in the next video. Thank you so much for watching, and game you later. Bye bye.